early signing period, December 15th to the 17th, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before Christmas. You still have National Signing Day. If you don't get it done in that small window, it's going to be in February. With all the coaching movement and all the firings in the portal, I don't even know if you need this anymore. And the question is too, what is a national letter of intent? What does that even mean anymore with the transfer portal? If you sign it and 3 days later you'd like to go somewhere else, I mean, do you even have to matriculate and show up at school? Do you even have to do those things? So I'm not even sure what signing day, and everybody hoots and hollers, and it's a big day. You beat your chest for the best class. And believe me, recruiting is not inconsequential. You look at the recruiting rankings, and then you look at the list of teams that have been in the playoff. Those lists are fairly similar. The teams with the best players are the ones that go to the playoff. And so you need to recruit. But when you get these guys and they get there, it's a whole nother beast now. Because you've got to keep them happy early. You've got to play young guys. You've got to realize if guys aren't worth investing and they're going to leave anyway, and you build these relationships, and all of a sudden it used to be like under the table cash. Now everybody can say, hey, we're handing you this NIL package. So every school, Texas has done it. I guarantee you got A&M, Bama, Georgia, all these schools. I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, they're going to have to step up to the table and be able to offer kids not only a scholarship, but an NIL package with it. Now, I'm a firm believer, like, you don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. The real value is being able to go to one of these big time schools. You're going to get your NIL money, but then you're ultimately going to get developed and get drafted at a high level. And then you're starting to talk about huge dollars with your NFL career. That's where that ultimately matters. And so I don't think it's the be all end all, but when you sign your national letter of intent, what does it mean? You can go anywhere right after this. And so I don't understand. It's we make a big deal about it today, but in talking to some college coaches, like, they just kind of scratch their heads. It's like, all right, we've got them for today. If they decide they don't want to be here sometime between now and the time they're supposed to enroll, what does that even mean? What are we supposed to do with that? Where do they go? They can go anywhere they want, and there's no restrictions with it. And so that begins to beg the question, if you're an NFL coach, do you now have more control over your players than a college coach? Because it used to always be college coaches didn't translate to the NFL because they didn't have control. There's player mobility. There was free agency. You couldn't talk to those guys the same way. Well, now there's no contracts with players. They can just leave. I don't like a coach. I can just hop in the portal, slide to some other school. People talk about coaches being able to move and go wherever they want, and coaching flexibility. Yeah, I think that's great. They also have buyouts and they have contracts. And so if you're going to leave one school, either you or the next school is ultimately going to have to pay something, whatever is agreed upon in your contract, for you to be released from that and go somewhere else. And so coaches can leave. The problem is players, they can leave without consequence. And I'm a big player movement guy, and I think it's good, and having the opportunity to be able to do it. I was a proponent of, hey, 2 years, then you get to move and you can do what you want. But college football and football in general is really difficult. It gets even harder in the NFL. But players come there, they sign 4-year deals, 5-year deals out of college. You just can't say, hey, the coach is hard on me here. I had a great rookie year. Someone else wants me. Hey, I'm going to jump in the free agency portal. That's not how it works. And so guys can do that in college. So I would argue now that NFL coaches, you can actually coach harder in the NFL. You're dealing with older guys. Yeah, they're making money, but so are guys in college now. But they're more mature. They can handle it, and they're under contract. You at least know when they're able to leave. Either you could trade them or you could cut them, but they have to stay there at least through the duration of their contract, should you choose that to happen as a coach in a front office. And so all of a sudden this is turned, and you have these young guys who are, they've got parents, they've got family members, aunts, uncles, friends, whoever it is, the influences in their life. And this is a little bit of, shaking my fist at the sky and say, I wish the way it used to be. That's not it. But you have guys who are young. There's this money being thrown around. That's great. Get it all. Player mobility, being able to leave a bad situation. That's great. But there is times where you have to work through difficult situations. And I don't know if players are truly doing that anymore, when you can just slide into the portal and get on out of there. I think that's the one thing that makes this really, really tough. And coaches have talked about it. Lane Kiffin has lamented it, and people are saying, well, it's easy for him. He does a guy that left Tennessee, 6-year deal, goes to USC, all this different stuff. Yeah, but there's still buyouts and there's things. And he did all that, but that still doesn't mean that what he's saying about players leaving in the bidding process with the NIL, that still doesn't make it less true. And so I'm all for players getting their money. I'm all for players' ability to transfer and move. But if you're going to transfer, there still should be some consequence. And the thought was brought up to me, if you transfer outside of your first year, you got to pay back your first year of tuition, room and board, the expenses that the university put out for you. And your next school can pick it up, or you have to pay it out of NIL money or whatever it might be. And so you have the ability to move and you can play right away. But now there is still an element where there is some level of consequence for the player of what they're going to be required to do should they still leave. I don't know if that's the perfect solution or not, but there's a lot of issues that are all coming into play right now. And we've got early signing period. And does it even mean anything? Is it even worthwhile? Who knows?